Bucs 9-8 clinch the NFC South with this 9-0 victory over the Panthers, who finished 2-15.
I just love that it finished 9-0, because when it went to 9-0, you're like, ball game, that's it, unassailable 9-0 lead, and it was. Not only was it unassailable, but it didn't even get closer than that.
Yeah, Panthers were. 2 weeks ago, Bryce Young had the highest grade of his young career against the Green Bay Packers. That was Christmas Eve, and they got shut out each of the last 2 weeks against the Jags, and then now against the Bucs in this one. So the Panthers, they got the run game going a little bit, but never really had a chance. And then the Bucs, Baker Mayfield was battling multiple injuries, has ribs, ankle, just grinding it out, and you kind of felt that. But
Classic Baker,
but he still found a way to hobble for a scramble first down, and just enough by the Bucs. But you could tell Baker was way off, kept trying to throw picks early on and missing some throws. But the Bucs battled through and win the division.
Yeah, so they went 9-0 up with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and you're like,
it felt over.
Game. It was over.
Well, the Panthers, when it was 6-0, they missed a field goal. Yeah. Where it's like, if they at least hit the field goal and they're within another field goal, this is doable. But then they missed the field goal. Bucs come back with another field goal. Now it's 9-0, and it's like, yeah,
not a chance.
This game's
no
over.
Hope. It was also a game where basically since the moment DJ Chark called out the narrative that it's all on the wide receivers, it's been all on DJ Chark. Like, he has made more mistakes to let down the Panthers than anybody since making a big deal out of the fact that the receivers were taking all the blame. It's actually fascinating.
So
it's like that moment.
So the two big moments in this game, because the Panthers did have a touchdown, potentially. The one big play in the pass game, because Bryce Young finished with 94 receiving yards, 42
passing yards.
Bryce Young, thank you. 94 passing yards. Reset, ready?
That's not good.
Bryce Young finished with 94 passing yards, 42 of which came on a scramble drill to DJ Chark.
That looked very Bryce Young. That was like, oh, look, there's Alabama Bryce Young out of the pocket, making a play, rolling to his left, finds his receiver. It's a touchdown. No, it's not.
And then Antoine Winfield saves the day right at the goal line, knocks the ball out from DJ Chark.
That's Pro Bowl snub, Antoine Winfield.
Now, listen, not only is Antoine Winfield one of the best safeties in the NFL this year, 90-plus PFF grade, this is the second game, because I think they still ended up losing to Atlanta, but this is the second game he almost pretty much saved.
On his own,
It's the second touchdown that he saved.
Yeah.
Because Desmond Ridder earlier in the year was walking in for a touchdown. Winfield hustles, forces a fumble and a touchback, just barely. Same thing with Chark here.
That one, I think he at least touched the ball, though, right? Like, he actually forced that one out. This one, he just hit Chark, who then dropped the ball into the end zone.
Whatever. Antoine Winfield deserves credit for all of this.
He does.
So the Panthers, that was a scoring opportunity.
Yeah.
And then they scored what would have been about a 40-yard touchdown, but there was an illegal formation.
Yeah.
And so the two
and then, like,
biggest
plays
later by the Panthers were a fumble out of a touchback and an illegal formation.
And the illegal formation, I think the very next play, or maybe 2 plays later, was like a strip sack. Then the ball's turned over. So you went from touchdown to, you don't even have the ball anymore.
Yeah.
That's the Panthers season in a nutshell. Really is.
It was not great. So credit the Bucs for making those plays. The offense had been better these last few weeks, but they had a rough 3 quarters against the Saints last week, and in this one, obviously Baker Mayfield and his injuries, what he's trying to deal with, the pass game struggled. He finished as 20 for 32 for just 137 yards. That's 4.3 yards per attempt. Got sacked 3 times, but they did. Chase Edmonds had a big run. Again, this was one of those plays where any sort of 15 to 20 yard play was huge.
They did enough.
And they did just enough, and it was winning in for the Bucs. The Saints and Falcons were playing for, hoping that the Bucs would lose, and but this was winning in, and the Bucs took care of business.
And they get to host the Eagles.
Well, that's the thing now.
You couldn't have asked for a better opponent. Like, you get, A, you're hosting a playoff game, even though you've just struggled your way across the line, and B, the team you're hosting is in absolute free fall crisis right now. they are absolutely live to win that game.
They have a chance to win a game and maybe earn the right to go to San Francisco in round 2.
Now, that won't go.
Again, I don't know that
that won't go so well.
That won't go so well, but there's a chance to win a playoff game in Tampa Bay this year.
Doesn't it feel almost like the reverse? Remember a couple of years ago where the Eagles had sort of overachieved, made the playoffs, and then they went up against Tampa Bay, and you're like, oh, you see, that's kind of the difference between
they have no chance.
You're good enough to make the playoffs versus an actual contender. It's almost like the reverse this time. Like the Bucs might get the win again, but if they do, they're going to roll up against the 49ers and see there's a difference there.
Yeah. This is it's going to be an interesting round 1 game. It'll be the Monday night game. A couple Panthers I just wanted to shout out here. J.C. Horn, only played 6 games this year, but played pretty well again. Derek Brown, I didn't realize. So he did end up with over 100 tackles.
Yeah.
As a defensive lineman. I saw because you tweeted the other night. You're like, who's under the radar deserves to be an All-Pro?
Mm-hmm.
And I saw people answering saying Derek Brown because he's going to have a 100 tackle season at defensive line, and I immediately get skeptical about tackle numbers because I usually don't even look at them, right? Because I don't care about tackle numbers generally, and I don't know if people realize this. Back in the day, you'd watch like a CBS broadcast, and they would say. I remember they said like Ted Washington had like 120 tackles one year or something. That's like he probably had 40. Like those things weren't real. But this was legit. Derek Brown was making and his PFF grade's good. He's been good against the run. He had 4 or 5 pressures in this game. Was moving the pocket. Derek Brown's a very good player, but he's making a ton of plays this year. So I just wanted to give him a shout out for another awesome season, Derek Brown. I don't think he'll make All-Pro, but really good season. I think there's a couple defensive pieces to build upon here for the Panthers with whichever route they go as far as head coach and the rest of the new regime coming in.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be fascinating just in and of itself to see how that goes, who they're going to bring in, and you could only imagine the rage that exists within David Tepper right now, where he gets to watch Bryce Young going for 95 yards every week. Meanwhile, C.J. Stroud is in the playoffs, looking like an absolute superstar. And whether or not whether or not David Tepper thought that Bryce Young was the right guy, you can guarantee that in his head right now he was like, I was C.J. Stroud the whole way. What is this? I got dragged down a ridiculous road by these idiots that I've already fired, and look what we could have had. Even though he may have been in the room going, I need Bryce Young.
Last year at this time, I was thinking about Josh McCown, first-time NFL coach, and during it's this time of year, right, heading into the combine and everything, and they were whining and dining all of the quarterback prospects, and I'm like, man, good for Josh McCown. That's a lot of steak dinners. And then you realize it's with David Tepper every single time. So you got, fine dining every week with the next quarterback prospect, but you're doing it with a guy who might throw a bucket of water in your face. Never know.
Mm-hmm.
I'd take the steaks though.
Does Bryce Young eat off the kids menu?
Stop it, dude. Stop.
The sad thing is he's basically my size.
Stop.
He's not even small. He's just normal.